Hi everyone, my name is Ron Perotti. I am a member of your current AEA bargaining team. As you're probably aware, we're in the middle of negotiating a successor agreement to our contract, and we are holding a membership meeting on May 22nd. We're flipping the script on this one. Instead of spending the time at the meeting going through data and where we are in bargaining and talking about how we compare to other districts, we're going to do that up front here in this video. The hope is that our members watch the video before they go to the meeting so that we can spend the time in the meeting taking and answering questions and not just throwing a slide presentation at you. Here is what we do. We write new contract language. We negotiate that language with the school district. We spend even more of our time, however, collecting data about who our members are, what our members need, how we compare to other school districts, and then share that information with you. All of this is to get the best sense of where we're going and what we need to do in our contract. And finally, we ultimately take direction from our e-board. They set the direction for bargaining and what we present at the table. What we don't do is advocate for any action that might be an unfair labor practice. We do not bargain in bad faith. It is our desire to get the best contract possible in the quickest time frame possible for our members. We don't do organizing. We have a separate organizing body in AEA. We encourage you to join them to take part in organizing actions because everything that our organizing team does supports what we do at the table. And finally, once we get to the point that we have a tentative agreement, we will advocate for it. We absolutely want folks to vote for a TA once we get there. We're not there yet, obviously. We'll talk about where we're going as we go through this presentation. So here's what you're going to see in this presentation. We're going to start with compensation and where we are, just so you have a basic understanding of where Alameda falls. We'll talk about different ways to put salary increases on our salary schedule. We're going to talk briefly about the different costs that are involved in a contract, like class size and healthcare. Those are things that affect salary. We'll talk about some of the things that came up in surveys, like how can we add steps and columns to our salary schedule? What's a longevity stipend and why do we have it? And why should we keep it? Or should we not keep it? We'll talk a little bit about Me Too clauses, and we'll end with a brief overview of where we're at right now and where we're going in bargaining. So let's get right into the good stuff. So this shows Alameda Unified, our salary schedule compared to other school districts. What I have done for this and the slides that are going to come up after this is just pulled 4 steps and column cells off of our salary schedule and found similar steps and column cells in other salary schedules, just to give a basic overview of how we compare to other school districts. I've got lowest salary, just like the starting salary. We've got 10 years of service plus 30 units. We've got 20 years of service plus 60 college units. And then we've got the maximum cell on the far right. And the districts that are chosen are all Alameda County. There's a couple of districts that are not shown here because they are so different from us. Emeryville has, I think, a total of 44 teachers in their bargaining unit. It's just not a comparable school district. So as you can see from this first slide, if you were just looking at the salary schedule, we are in Alameda, we fall about 6 to 8% behind county average. Want to point out that one thing that's included in this is longevity stipends. I'm assuming that someone at 10 years has the 10-year longevity stipend, and someone at 20 and maximum has the full longevity stipends. Many districts don't do longevity stipends. Some do, some don't. But that's just, so if these numbers look funny to you, it's because the longevity stipends are factored into this. Now here's the thing. There's nobody in our bargaining unit that this actually represents because there's other things that go into compensation. So for example, let's say you are an AEA member who gets their health care either on the open market or through a partner, then you are eligible to take the in lieu cash, which totals in our district about $3,600 a year. So that is something that we add to your salary because it's total compensation. So this is what it looks like to be an AEA member who's taking the in lieu compared to other districts and their in lieus. And you can see on the right column, some districts don't do what we do. We in fact have the second highest in lieu of any district in the county. So that is cash that goes to our members. And while it's not salary, it is part of your total compensation. So now we're looking at our members between 3.5% and 6% behind, depending on where you fall on the salary schedule. So next slide, I bet you can guess what's coming. This is if you take healthcare through the district for yourself only, not for a family member or a partner. This represents about 45% of our members. I failed to mention the previous slide, the in lieus, it's about 41%. So this is the biggest block of our teachers is folks who take employee-only healthcare. And you can see that what our district offers is comparable or better than most districts in the county for employee-only. And because of that, now we're pretty close to average. We are 1 to 2 to 4% behind county average, depending on where you are in the salary schedule. So it makes sense that this is our biggest block of teachers because right now, compared to other districts, this is the best deal in AUSD. Our next slide, I bet you can guess what's next. Employee plus one. This is a very small sliver of our members. This is only 4% of our membership takes employee plus one healthcare. Now, we have a cap on our healthcare at $12,000 a year. So the amount that the district contributes for the employee only is the same as employee plus one. So it doesn't look as good now. If you are taking this kind of healthcare, you are about 4 to 6% behind county average. So, you know, if these members went somewhere else, they could probably get a better deal. Just want to take a second looking at this. You can see that there are some school districts that pay for full coverage for their members, like Oakland Unified or Albany. Now, Oakland's salary is a lot lower, but they contribute a lot more to healthcare, so their total compensation is pretty close to that in Alameda. And finally, let's go to family healthcare. This is about 10% of our members. Now again, because our health contribution in AUSD is capped at $12,000, if you are taking family healthcare, which is way more expensive than that, you are falling behind other districts where, again, Oakland has now jumped from the lowest paid district to the 5th lowest. So they're kind of in the middle now because that $34,000 they contribute to their employees' family health care looks pretty sweet and adds to their total compensation. So if you are taking family health care, you are now falling from 6 to 8% behind county average. So the next thing we want to talk about is once we have a salary increase, how do we apply it to our salary schedules? Now, the traditional way to do this is to, let's say we're getting a 6% raise, you just multiply every cell on the salary schedule times 1.06. So what you're seeing here is on the top, it's the first 3 rows of our salary schedule and the bottom 2. And then below that is the first 3 rows and bottom 2 rows if you apply 6% increase to all those rows. So you can see that if you are in step 1, column 1, your new teacher cell is going up from 68,000 to 72,000. Your most veteran teacher on the bottom right is going from 122 to 130. So the other way to do this, and this is something we've done a couple of times in the past 10 years, is you take the total value of that salary increase and you divide it evenly by all of our members. So right now, The cost of 1% has been calculated at about $579,000. That's just the salary only cost to AEA. If you took that times 6 and then divided it by all of our members, you get a per cell increase of $6,785. So what you're seeing here is adding $6,785 to every cell. So now your brand new teacher is going from $68,000 to $75,000, while your veteran teacher is going from $122 to $129. So how does that compare? On your left is your 6% increase. On your right is your per cell flat increase. You can see it's better for a veteran teacher or someone who's looking at retirement in the next couple of years, who wants to max out their retirement, to take that money as a percent increase. Whereas if you are a new teacher or early on in your career, you're better off getting that flat increase. Now, why are we reviewing this now? You probably have heard this before. You might be wondering, why go back over this? Well, we had a survey that went out to members about a month ago, and the bargaining team was a little thrown off by the results. Here's why. We had a question on the survey that said, which option would result in more salary for you? And of the 132 folks who responded to that particular question, 80% said, I'd rather get a percent increase. And only 20% said, oh, I'd be better off if we did a flat increase. Now, this would make perfect sense if 80% of the people who took the survey were veteran teachers who were making a pretty high salary. They'd be better off with a percent increase than having their money go towards newer teachers. But that's not what actually happened in the survey. So here's who responded. 26% of the people responding were new teachers, 0 to 5 years. Another 20%, 6 to 10 years. Another 20%, 11 to 15 years. So 68% of the respondents were in their first 15 years in the district. So those are folks who are definitely going to be better off, in the short term at least, getting a flat increase versus a percentage increase. So we got these numbers back, and we felt like there was a disconnect between what people thought was best for them and what actually would be best for them, at least in the short term. So last slide on this is just want to review what we've actually done in the past 10 years. So since 2015, 2016, we have taken a series of salary increases over the years. A couple of those salary increases we have taken as flat increases, where we took the total amount. We said, okay, instead of bumping everybody up 4%, let's give everybody an equal dollar amount. So what has happened with step 1, column 1, your new teacher salary, it's gone from $45,000 to $68,000. It's been a $22,000 increase. Meanwhile, your veteran teacher, step 27, column 5, has gone from $89,000 to $124,000, a $35,000 increase, a significant increase dollar-wise over your new teacher cell. But the percentage increase has been much greater in that new teacher cell. So we've done some work over the past 10 years or so to make sure that the folks in the top left of our salary schedule, the folks that are making less money, get a little more money in their pockets, because we know that while salaries might increase 5%, that 5% feels different for someone who's new versus someone who's a veteran, and yet everybody is looking at the same increases in terms of healthcare costs. The healthcare cost doesn't go up less for a veteran teacher, or less for a new teacher than a veteran teacher. They go up the same. Other cost of living costs go up equally for everyone. So we wanted to make sure that the folks that are on the newer end of our salary schedule are still being made whole after things like healthcare costs go up. Okay, next up, we're going to look at a couple of things that are subject to bargaining that include costs in addition to just salary. And one that we've already looked at a little bit is benefits, healthcare. What we're looking at here is, on the top left, this is what our respondents to our healthcare survey said they currently take. And it's not exactly right, but it's pretty darn close. Like we said earlier, about 44% of our members take employee-only coverage, and that's reflected here in the survey. 10% of our members take family. It's 11.9 here, pretty close. But what we're looking at is if we were to put money, instead of putting money towards salary, if we were to put some money towards having the district pay for more of our health care, how would people respond? Who would change the level of health care that they take? So the piece of the pie that I think is worth looking at here is the family piece. Right now, we know that about 10% of our members take family health care. It was 11% or 12% of our respondents to the survey. And of the people that took the survey, 32% said if our district were suddenly to pay for full family health benefits, they would move to that healthcare category, which has a cost involved. And it's pretty simple to figure out. It's going to cost a little more than $20,000 per person to go from the current healthcare cap to paying for full Kaiser. So that's $20,000 per person. If we're going from 10% of our members, or 12% here, to 32% of our members, that's about 100 people. So 100 people times $20,000, that's going to be a little over $2 million that our district is now spending on healthcare just for AEA members. This is money that we could put towards something else, like salary or class size. And you might be wondering, can't we do both? Well, no, because there's a finite amount of money in a budget for our school district. Speaking of class size, let's go to the next slide. How much would it cost to reduce class size across the district? If we dropped one student, K through 3, it's about $1.5 million. Middle school, $637,000 to drop from 33 to 32. Dropping one in high school, about $500,000. Secondary music and PE teachers who have a lot of kids in their classes. Our poor middle school teachers who do PE, that's a big class. So going just from 55 to 50, which is still a big class, $300,000. If we were to put a max caseload for counselors in middle and high school, a little over $1 million. And then some folks said, hey, you know what, we could really use a para in our K classes. I totally agree. But again, there's a cost involved in that. It's $1.3 million. So again, compare all of this to the cost of a 1% salary increase, which district-wide is about $1 million, or to AEA, $726,000. So again, all of these things that we can bargain, like healthcare and class size reduction, there are costs involved. We have a funny thing in our contract, which says that when new teachers come to our district, they get year-for-year service credit. So if you have spent 20 years as a teacher and you're moving to the Bay Area from Oregon, when you come to Alameda, we give you credit for all 20 of those years. Whereas if you get a job in San Leandro, they might only give you credit for 10 or 15 of those years. So that makes Alameda a very attractive district for veteran teachers. And it's something that our district likes having in our contract, that it is a recruiting tool for AUSD. The issue that we've run into is that it makes our membership, or our total salary load in our school district very high, because we have more veteran teachers. It's very attractive for someone to leave their school district in the area, come to Alameda, because they know they're going to get every year of credit for coming here. So a few years ago, we realized this was depressing salary. Since we have a very expensive teaching staff, the folks who have been in our school district for 10, 15, 20 years aren't making as much as they would have had they started teaching in Fremont or Hayward or San Leandro or Berkeley. So we wanted to give a little something back to the teachers who have spent their career in the school district by creating these longevity stipends. So this is kind of to counter the fact that we give year-for-year credit for people coming in, and just give a little bit back to folks who have spent their career in Alameda. Could we add to this? Yeah. Could we have a 20-year step? Absolutely. There's nothing stopping us from doing any of these things. Again, it's just money. It's money that would come out of class size or salary increase or out of benefits. All right, some other things that have come up in surveys, folks' questions. One is about Me Too clauses. What are they? Why do they exist? So now let's say you are the CSA union representing custodians in AUSD. You have a Me Too clause in your contract that says, hey, if the teachers get a 5% raise, we get a 5% raise. Now, we do this because they do this because this union doesn't have the same weight, doesn't have the same power that AEA does. The custodians don't have 530 members that can go to a school board meeting and rally on their behalf. So we want all of our custodians and our office managers and our paras to be well compensated. We want them to have access to good health care just as we do. So personally, I think it's good that they have Me Too clauses. Folks have said, well, why don't we have a Me Too clause? Well, again, they don't have the bargaining power that we do. School management or the school admins or management, they also have a Me Too clause with us. And again, if you are the group representing principals, you don't have the bargaining power that we have in AEA. And AEA doesn't want to be tied to what someone else is bargaining. We like having control over our contract. We want to be able to say, hey, if there's money, let's put it towards this or towards that. So could we have Me Too clauses? Yes, but I'm personally not sure where that gets us because we tend to have more power at the table than anybody else does. Okay, vision and dental. There was some question about, hey, can we have the district pay full vision and dental? Yes, we can. A few years back, the district paid for full dental for everyone. That went away because we decided as a bargaining team and as AEA a few years ago that money would be better spent put towards salary. So let's say the district pays $400 a month for you to get dental care. That is money that you don't see. The district just buys dental coverage for you. You've got it. What we do now is the district takes that $400 and says, okay, we're going to give it to you as salary. And that's what we did. We didn't lose the money. We just put the money towards salary. Now, once it's on salary, you can choose as an individual if you want to keep that money in your pocket or if you want to put it towards dental care. There are two benefits of that. One, some folks don't need the dental coverage, and therefore they'd rather have the money in their pocket. Second, even if you're taking that money and putting it back towards dental coverage, it is still salary that you get towards your retirement. And you're not paying taxes on it because if you're putting it towards dental, it is pre-tax. So yes, we could take $400 out of everyone's paycheck and give everybody dental care. But again, it's a trade-off. You're going to be $400 less in your paycheck at the end of the month, and you're going to have, dental coverage. All right, the 2 January checks. Can we move one back to December? Man, I wish we could, and we totally can. Here's why we have 2 checks in January, as it has been explained to me. 25 or 30 years ago, AEA got a raise, and as a part of that raise, they said, hey, we're going to suddenly be in a higher tax bracket because we got this raise. Here's how we don't have to pay more taxes on this raise. Let's move this check to January. So we only have 11 checks this particular year, and it looks like we made less salary. It was a little accounting trick that AEA did decades ago that we are paying for now. Because now, if we were to move that check back to December so that folks can pay rent or pay for the costs of the holiday season, now doing that means you're going to have 13 months in a calendar year and a tax year. So your taxable income for that year is going to go up by about 10%. And everyone's going to pay more taxes just because that check got moved. So could we move? the check back to December? Yeah, we can. Is it going to cost our members money? Yes, it will. And the last thing we had a lot of questions about were extra duty hours. Extra duty hours appear in a lot of collective bargaining units contracts for teachers. Some districts have more hours than we do. Some districts have fewer hours than we do. Could we bargain away some hours? Yeah, we could try. The trade-off being that for every hour that I, as an NCNL teacher, am not now at a football game or being a chaperone at a dance, the school now has to find, and in some cases pay, for someone else to be the chaperone or watch the gate at a basketball or football game. So it could be a cost item for the district to lose those hours from us. So like everything else, it's a trade-off. Do we think it's worth it that the district doesn't get our time at these events and now they have to pay someone else? And is that money that could go towards a salary increase? Yeah, it is. So we'd be giving up some salary increase money. I don't know exactly how much. The district hasn't costed that out. We could ask them to. But I suspect that if members were given the option of, would you rather have fewer extra duty hours or make more money? Most people are going to say, I'd rather make more money. All right. And what do we have next? Okay, so that kind of concludes the educational piece of this. Here's where we are in negotiations. The district has expressed interest in having some greater control over seniority transfers. That's something that we're talking about. They have proposed creating middle school department chairs, and as part of that, creating clear expectations and obligations around what the department chairs are, who they are, how they are chosen, etc. The district has expressed interest in having a little more control over Wednesday collaboration time, which we're working on. We have passed language around unit member safety, around leaves language in our contract. We've passed some language around work hours. We're hoping to get a little more money for President's Release for AEA. And we will be back at the table on May 28th, so coming up. So before we go, here's how you can help us. Help us help you, please. We have 3 surveys that are still floating out there. They are on the AEA website. We got one about health benefits. We've got one about superintendent's increase to their salary. We've got one around the percentage versus equal amount going towards salary schedule, and there's going to be some more surveys coming up soon. As you saw in this presentation, for some of those surveys, we had less than a quarter of our members take the survey. So that doesn't help us terribly in terms of trying to figure out what our members need. So please, please, please take the surveys. That's about it for me. I will see you at the general membership meeting. Thanks.